moving.
Yeah.
A lot of people can't, and thus then it just becomes a train wreck.
Yeah, it's a real problem. You have five panelists, and then one panelist who just has to talk about every topic, every question.
No, I
at
will cut
length.
you off. I will
Yep.
cut you off in a second.
Yep.
I'm like, respectfully, it won't go all the time. Let somebody else.
Greg, the thing went away. Is it supposed to be there? Perfect.
Oh boy.
Oh, it's fine. Everything's fine.
Just wiggle.
Wiggle, wiggle,
Look,
wiggle.
it's wiggling.
That's a choice. That's a
Doesn't
choice you
make
could
sense.
make.
I don't know.
Y'all ready to?
All right. Yeah. Where are we gonna go?
Hello, everybody. It's time to start. So we're going to start. This is the Let Fate Decide panel, where we are going to talk about the freedom that randomness affords you in TTRPGs. I'm Logan Jenkins. I'm part of Very Random Encounters, where we play pen and paper RPGs and randomize as much as possible. Like every season, we completely randomize our characters and everything that I just said. Also,
Characters, villains, names, places, and other weird stuff.
And so we've been doing that for 8 years, and we figured out that that's actually really freeing and fun to do, and actually makes you be able to tell stories that you otherwise wouldn't. I'm gonna go down through the panel here, or well, they're gonna introduce themselves, tell you about where they are found, and why they're on the channel.
I'm Lee Terrell. I am also on Very Random Encounters. If you want to find me, you could just email hi@very.show.
Perfect.
Hi, everybody. My name is Omega Jones, also known as Crit Bard. Crit Bard across all social media channels. My pronouns are he and they. I am a professional actor and vocalist from the Midwest, turned tabletop designer, gamer, host, moderator, jack of all trades, master of like 3 of them. I've worked with Wizards of the Coast, with a Critical Role, World of Darkness, appearing on Heroes Feast and Fast and Pepper Worm Kill Kill on the D&D official TV channels. And yeah, I guess I do a lot. So that's me.
Hi, everybody. My name is Amanda Hammond, pronouns she, her. I'm a tabletop game designer. I'm currently a product lead and senior game designer on D&D 5th edition at Wizards of the Coast. Previously been co-creator of Starfinder RPG by Paizo, Pathfinder 1st edition also by Paizo, Truly Machines by Modifius, and 5th edition stuff, Kobold Press, etc. It's not important. Moving on.
I'm just the lead designer on D&D. It's not important. That's you. That's what you sound like. Good morning, everybody. My name is Kate Osborne. I go by Katiosaurus Online, where I am an educator, an advocate, an author, a speaker, a podcaster, a TTRPG performer, a doer of funny voices. And yeah, I do a lot in the tabletop space. I've worked with all of the people that you probably are thinking of. And yeah, I'm excited to be here. Good morning.
And I'm Greg Leatherman. I'm also part of Very Random Encounters. I am also a game designer through my own games called Leatherman.games, where you can find my stuff. You'll see a character sheet up that I'll explain in a minute because this game isn't out yet, but it will be soon. So we'll get to that.
Well, we're gonna get to that pretty fast because so last year we did create a random character all together as a panel at the end, and Kate had the great idea to do that at the beginning because then we can tie that back to all the points we're gonna make later.
Point of order, specifically because then you're all emotionally invested for the. Because what was? Do you remember the name of that character?
He was a bugbear. I think it was Klurg.
Clerk. Yeah, yeah. I've never fallen in love with a character like I fell in love with Clerk.
Klurg had his whole family of fleas living on him. That was also a flea circus, and he was part of the act. And it was. We were all crying in the room. Yeah, so we're making a character in Greg's game, so I'm going to let him take it away.
Yeah, so this is actually my newest game that we kickstarting September 9th. It's called Dumbest Sky Tamers, which is a monster collecting TTRPG, taming, fighting. You may have heard of Pokemon. It's very similar to that, except legally distinct.
Legally is an important word here.
Legally distinct.
Yeah.
So, who wants to take this D6 and figure out what this character's name is?
Oh, I'll go first.
I
We'll just go
guess
down
you're
the
right
table.
here.
Is that
Yeah.
cool?
Yeah.
Do it.
That's gonna be a 6.
All right. So, the character name is Roseanne.
Oh, Roseanne.
Roseanne Brindley.
Sure.
Work.
All right.
I love Roseanne already.
Got Rosie.
Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to figure out its stat. The stats. The stats are pretty easy in my game. Body is for things you do with your body. Mind is for things you do with your mind. Presence is how you sort of interact with the world. In the system, everything starts as a D6, but you can raise 1 to a D4, 1 up to a D8, and drop 1 to a D4. However, we don't get a choice. We're going to roll to see what the stat spread is on a D8.
8.
8. All right. So we have a D6 for a body,
Nice.
D4 for a mind,
Fair.
So Roseanne, yeah.
and a D8 for presence.
They actually call her Rizzy Roseanne.
Rizzy Roseanne, yeah.
Rizzy.
Rizzy.
So average in the physical, maybe not the brightest bulb that has ever happened. We're going to continue passing D8s down because now we're going to figure out what do they do in this world of what are they good at in this little monster collecting world. So we're going to have roll a D8 4 times to figure out what skills. they're
4
good at.
times? Bet. That's a 6.
Okay. They are good at exploring. They're an explorer.
Okay. Roseanne loves
Love that.
hikes.
And I'll let you do the other 2. 4.
They're a collector. They like collecting things and collecting Doma Sky little monsters.
They can collect things on their hikes.
Yeah.
2.
They are a caregiver. They like taking care of people and little monsters.
Okay.
And 1.
And they're good at battling.
All right.
Heck yeah.
Naturally.
Yeah. I'm not mad at that. Okay.
So
Right.
she collects a bunch of little monsters on hikes and does make them fight.
But she cares for
takes
them.
care of-
But she
she
cares
takes
for
care
them
of them
during,
afterwards.
yes.
In the system, everything else that you're not great at becomes a D4. The reason why that is important is it's a dice pool system, so you pull a die from everything. Successes are 5s or above, which means if you have a D4 in it, you'll never succeed. But if you get a 1, it adds complications. So,
so
there's
you
a
can
reason.
fail.
There's a reason for my
You can
madness.
never succeed, but you can have a dice that's a D4?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, so you can roll. You can have a more likely chance if you're using a skill that you're not good at having a
Gotcha.
complication in it.
I
All right,
see.
we're gonna figure out what their background is. The backgrounds are very general that I picked from this list, but we're gonna roll a d10 and figure it out.
That's a 5.
Well,
Thank
their
you.
family was religious.
Oh.
Oh.
What's the religion in Pokemon world? Doma Sky, Tamer's world.
It's
Legally
not Arc.
Extinct.
No, man.
Figure it out.
Is one of the little monsters like God?
No, not yet.
Can we roll randomly for what they worship?
Ooh.
I can pull that up in a bit.
Okay.
I can do a random.
Can I
yes,
give
yes,
you
yes.
options and we'll just make a table
Sure.
on the fly? Okay. Cheese, pigeons, the color blue, and shoes. Yes. Roll D4. Somebody roll a D4.
Cheese, pigeons, the color blue, and shoes. Great.
Where's my D4?
I'm a real game designer.
Aren't we all?
Yes.
Don't we all?
Most of you would have to pay $5,000 for that. So
That's your D4.
You are all welcome. It's a 3.
That is the color
The
blue.
color
that is the
blue.
color blue.
Blue clerics.
Blue clerics.
Blue clerics. All right.
All
All
right.
right. We're back to you for a D8 to figure out what's their goal in life
Okay.
in this little world.
That's going to be a 4.
They want to be a doctor.
What?
Sure.
It makes
Work?
sense. Very
Yeah.
caring.
We can
Like
make it
a
work.
point of order, doctor or like PhD doctor?
Well, researcher is a different thing, so we're going to say
Okay.
Oh, like
we're going to say medical doctor
Okay.
of some sort.
Well, yeah, because she
Okay.
loves healing.
Yeah. Maybe she's like a
Loves
vet.
fighting and healing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's like a vet. That's how good she is.
Blue scrubs.
The last D8 is going to be what her starter Doma Sky is.
2.
2. She is going to start with the fire creature called Spiss.
Spiss.
And I will bring it up on my phone because the game's not out yet. I can't show some of these things. but I can cheat because it's my own stuff. So I will hold it out to people only here.
And don't tell anyone.
Don't tell anybody.
No.
I was gonna say I'm a tweet this.
So this is what Spiss looks
Oh, it's a little
Very
guy.
Is
Space.
Oh, I love him.
Yes.
Oh, look, he's so
like. Very
cute.
cute. It's a little fire creature. All right, that is it for making a character. Again, I make very simple systems.
Yeah.
So we have Roseanne, who is a
Rizzy
caregiver,
Roseanne. Yeah.
a battler, a collector, or an explorer. Wants to be a doctor. Comes from a religious background that really into the color blue.
Mhm. Is this
Has an
Blueprints?
average physicality, very great presence, a very powerful person when you're speaking to them, but not necessarily right.
Yeah.
Maybe she's from
Yeah.
the Sisterhood of the Traveling Blue Scrubs.
Oh, there we go.
Oh,
Mm.
Grey's Anatomy. What Greg, I'm curious about bonds.
All right, so bonds in this, I I hate most help systems because you can't actually help each other. So bonds are when you're actually playing with other characters, you add their names to them, and they get a D6. So if that person can say, "Oh, hey, I'm helping in whatever way," it could be a motivational speech, it could be like, "I'm helping lift." You can add a D6 to your pool, so you're more likely to get a success. And as long as that person is within the area, you get it. Also, you will have a bond with your domestai, your creature. So if they are there, you can use their bond to say, "Hey, this is how this little creature is helping me complete this task." So it's just sort of baked into the system. You want to get help, so you have more dice to roll in your pool, so you can have a better chance to succeed.
Nice.
Cool. Okay, well, we have Roseanne now,
Yes.
and I love her. And now we're going to proceed with why exactly we think randomization is the way you should go. Yeah, I mean, I could talk about it, but I'm the person who's doing the moderation, so y'all
Sure.
talk about it instead.
I mean, way to go is a rough thing to say. I don't necessarily the way to go. I think it is a possible way of going about a character because sometimes it is fun to learn as you play. And sometimes it's fun to learn as you create. Instead of coming in with a preconceived notion of what you want to do, letting the story or the beats or the people around you or a dice decide what you do can be a fun exercise in acting and improv, and also get something fun and new for the group. Clearly, like very random encounters and other folks I've known have done very well with random things. I know sometimes that can be like tough for some people because a lot of people need that order. They need to know exactly who they're playing and how they're playing it. But sometimes just that randomity of it all can just keep things keep you on your toes, keep you energized, keep you going, keep you active in a game.
My current obsession is a new game that James D'Amato, if any of you are familiar with his work, is putting out called Century Sword Knights, which is very much based in randomized encounters. And I did a play test of it the other day. And I was really nervous going in because I was like, oh, I like to be in control. This may shock you. I was like, oh, I don't know. I don't know if I like the idea of like letting a table decide what my character can be. And as we went through the character building process, kind of like we just saw just now as well, all of a sudden there were these gorgeous little nuggets of what this character could be and how this character moves through the world. And so I think with my improv brain, the thing that excites me the most is even if you have like that little bit of information, she wants to be a doctor, but she's not very smart. Okay, well, what does that look like in practice? How do I tell that story at the table? What does that look like in terms of the choices that she's making? And so I think if you can build the muscle of extrapolating 1 degree beyond what is on the piece of paper, it really gives you a gorgeous opportunity as the player to like really bring something special to that character, having never thought of it before in your life, which I love.
My experience is a little different because I had very little experience playing role playing games before I started our podcast. So I I almost can't just sit down and make a character. Like I got I'm just gonna roll. I'm gonna make something random out of it because I don't even know how to start from scratch. So I think it's a little different for me. But I would say that in general, I think it's good for your game because even if you like added small amounts of randomness into your character creation, because you can get into a rut of like kind of always doing the same thing, and this just forces your players out of doing that same thing that they always do. And I mean, it can be a lot of fun. I mean, you like just how we did. You come up with just like crazy ideas that you wouldn't normally put together, and but you got to make them work, and it's really fun.
Yeah, I think both as a player and a game master, the most fun part of randomness is the surprise of it. Randomness has been a beloved aspect of D&D for 50 years. The original first edition D&D was filled with charts and tables, right? And it was because people loved that surprise of what monsters are in this room, which direction should we go, where is the dungeon located, etc., etc. And it's kind of ebbed and flowed over the years as far as D&D is concerned, but I feel like games in which randomness is emphasized really gets back to that root of role playing, which is being surprised by what your character is in some cases, what your character does, what they find when you're the dungeon master. You're rolling on the random encounter tables with monsters. It's a really fun surprise, and it keeps people on their toes, and there's a really good emphasis for this is a game in which folks should be engaged. We really want to bring people into what's happening. I think one of the best ways to do that is to continue to create surprises, and that's what randomness does.
I mean, at a base level, the dice that you're rolling to hit are always going to be present and always surprise you with like, oh, actually, I'm very bad at what I just did.
Yeah. It's that enticement of like, I could roll a natural 20. You could also roll a natural 1. You have the exact same chance, but that hopefulness, right, is what keeps a lot of people going.
But we play because of that.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
of the times you fall on your face, because then it makes it feel even better when you triumph. And similarly, if you roll up a doctor who's not very smart, that's like starting as falling on your face a little bit, and then you get to make something interesting. Like, how does she succeed at this? So we mentioned a couple of things that it's a little bit scary. I think it's kind of intimidating to completely randomize aspects of character, like or your full character sheet. But it's not. You can do this.
I will say that even in our game, we'll have things that we don't randomize. Even about our characters, where like sometimes you'll look at a character sheet and realize how much of it you can randomize, and you'll do that, and then you're like, I'm worried that my players aren't going to feel like it's theirs enough, and so I'll add in like, but then you can choose this part's your choice. So like even if you don't randomize the whole thing, just randomizing parts of it can really shake things up.
There were certain things that we sort of agreed we weren't going to randomize. One of them was like gender, because we never wanted to give the sort of potential feel that a person have like, oh man, they rolled another dude. This is bad. Like we wanted to stay away from those sort of weird feelings, and you can look at things and look at like, if I make that random, that presents a problem that I don't want to approach to. I don't want to give the feeling of, oh, I'm stuck with this. So certain things we just said, we're going to take those off the table. We're not going to roll that. Those are things you can decide. So even you can have like complete control of how you design your character, but still decide, you know what, I'm just going to randomly figure out what their backstory is and try to make that work with what I just built, just to give me more of a creative spark.
Yeah, I think having the space.
Yeah.
I I think having the space to make decisions for your characters and fill in those gaps and sort of make them your own will make you more attached to that
Yep.
character.
Yeah,
And don't
nothing-
be afraid to just say, "Hey, this thing I rolled is not going to work for
Yeah,
me.
nothing's
Can I do
legally
something
binding."
else?" Yeah.
Sometimes for me, I don't know about y'all, but sometimes for me, the randomized leads me in the direction of the choice that I actually want. Like if you're using like fantasy name generator is a really good example because it's like I'll go on and it's like, oh, Fuzzy Smith Stevie Butt, and I'm like, I don't know if I love that, but I do like Fuzzy, or like whatever.
Yeah.
And that becomes like a really fun way to guide yourself into a choice that works for you.
Mhm.
That's a really good point. There's a reason why in all of the fifth edition books you will see in all of the random tables, the language that leads up to it says roll on or pick from, because a function of those tables is to be randomized if you want, but also to give the DM ideas for
Yeah.
reading options that they might not have thought of themselves, but that they really love from the table. And I do this when I DM. I usually just pick the coolest one that I like the most.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, choosing tables appropriately also helps you set the tone.
Mhm.
Like, if you don't want it to be a silly game, you can sort of pick the less silly name generators and be like, no, we're gonna go to the grim dark names section, and you can only roll from here.
Dirk.
Dark Steel.
Turk steel.
Dirt.
I want to talk a little bit about Chekhov's gun. If everybody's not aware of the concept, it's just that things that you add in the story should be important to the story. In this particular instance, and this is not just if you're randomizing stuff, but stuff that's on your character sheet is a collection of little Chekhov's guns that weirdly you have to make important later, or the game wants you to. Can y'all talk about some stuff that you've pulled from your character sheet and made important in a story?
Sure. Now I'm trying to think about exactly what. Hold on. Get back to me. Hold on.
Okay.
Oh,
I
amazing.
mean,
I'm sorry. You just
Bad
asked me to remember
apples.
every character I've ever made on the spot.
no,
Oh no,
just one
let me
ever.
put it
I
into
mean,
perspective.
I will talk about when we did our Hella Team season. We were randomly rolling the various creatures that made up who we were, and I got the bonanza where I had to roll multiple times, and so my character was part bug, part rock
Mhm.
from space, and part pig.
What?
And when I got that, I was like, "Oh, what is this?" But trying to figure out how a single being became all three of those things at the start of the game is what I just had to be like, okay, all of these three pieces are important because how did a rock and a bug and a pig all get combined into a talking, walking creature with superpowers? They also had superpowers. It was a wild season. And that actually fed into like, okay, who are the parents? Why are the parents important? Was it a is one of them a curse? Was one of them just like a random disease that happened and has been cured? But this is the after effects. All of those things suddenly had to become important to make this character make sense. And they actually did. We had to talk about it. Like, okay, so these are my parents. These are the events that happened. And this needs to sort of have a payoff. But this is what's feeding into who this person is.
I mean, something as simple, and I don't call it simple, but like something I think about a lot is if we look at like D&D, look at the D&D character sheet, especially when you're making it. At some point, like if you think of like a spellcaster, it asks you what's your spell focus. Is it an orb? Is it a crystal? Is it a X, Y, and Z? Those little small things you could just leave to chance and then come up with story behind that, because those can then be answers to why you do things a certain way in game. Or you can randomizing weapons. The signet ring that you can get if you're a noble, right? Those small little things that you didn't expect to put there, you didn't even think about it. You saw it and you go, "Oh, I can act this. This can be a vital element to my story." There's small little things you can do and see and really like just take it and hone an entire character around it. I mean, and even in the way that you look at like maybe how you pick your spells. I have I made a wild magic sorcerer once, and I intentionally said I will not know what spells I pick. When I level up, I'm rolling on a D100.
Love that.
Because like I don't have control, so why do I suddenly get to make fireball? No, grease. Like,
True
oh,
to the concept.
okay, here we are. And that's just what it's going to be. So those things can really elevate the type of character you play, especially because again, you come in with these preconceived notions about who this character is going to be, et cetera, et cetera. And if you have everything so orderly, you never get a chance to experience in that moment. You never get a chance to really go, oh, this is a good idea that I didn't think about. And now you're also just excited as everyone else about your character because you've also discovered something. Oh yeah, yeah. Look at your character sheet every now and then. Look at those things. Sometimes they really can like make you go from good to great. With your
Sorry, Amanda. So I love D&D, but when
You
I'm
don't have to apologize.
I feel like I don't know when
I'm
like
so sorry. I like
the
this game.
writer of D&D is next to me. I'm like, and I like all these other games instead. I feel like a little bit bad because I think you're cool and awesome. But so when I'm a huge world building game stan. Like that is my niche. I think especially if I'm running and I'm like the DMGM. And I really love games where you sit down and you build the world together. Games like Quiet Year, or I'm sorry, did you say Street Magic? There's, oh my God, there's so many and they're all falling on my head. There's the one with the chess piece on the front. I can picture the cover. I just can't tell you the names of them. But there's so many amazing ones. And what I have discovered as a person who likes to run those, a lot of times what I'll do is I will run those games for my first session, and then I will switch over to D&D and my players will play in that world. And that's when those details really start mattering. That's when those details really come out and really start flourishing. For example, last year I ran a game for some players and they wound up like in a magic library and they really wanted one of the NPCs to have been a veteran. And so it was just like this really small detail, but it wound up being like this core component of the story of like memory and PTSD and what does like war do to us and all of this stuff. And the library started taking on the facets of like the experience of this guy. And it was really, really emotional and it was really, really great. But it came from that one little detail of like, oh yeah, he was in the army for a little bit. And I don't know, I just think about those things all the time and how much life and color it can give to your game if you're willing to just give space to those little tiny details.
Something a friend of mine runs a West Marches campaign online on a Discord. It's just going to be a little bit of like a diatribe. He's go with me. Called the Never Ending Dungeon, which is short for Ned, or shortened to Ned. When I joined as a DM, we played with the idea of what if we could switch those letters around and then make something out of that. So now and it's a tower. So I run the Tower of Eden, which is EDN instead of NED. So then I made everything around like not like religious connotation, but like there's the Garden of Eden and all these things. And this place is really about belief and understanding. And so what I do every time we play a session, there are these trees in the garden outside of this tower. I'll call it the trees of life because why not? And I always have my players roll a d6 or have them roll two d6s. They will be deciding what skill they have that day that has advantage and what skill has disadvantage because Eden is all about that randomity, that weirdness, because the more you play and the more you shift, the more Eden grows and learns. Eden's not good. They've learned very quickly. Eden is not good, but it wants you to experience. It wants you to find these things, and I found that like my players have had a really good time with that because it forces them to like change how they do things, especially when they go to the space where it's like it's the underground cavern and every single sound you make is amplified by 1,000, and suddenly you have disadvantage on stealth. What do you do then, right? When shatter or silence, shatter works great. Silence doesn't work at all when you like you would think it would. Like those things can help elevate the story as well. So don't be afraid to have those random elements in your games.
I think of Tales from the Loop. There's a little like your personal item, and if you can weave that into whatever you're doing, it adds dice to your check. Which, like, if you have Rubik's cube, it can be like I throw it at a guy. But if you really think like, why is this kid carrying this around all the time? Is he good at it? Does he know how to solve the Rubik's cube, or is he just aspirational? Like you can really take it a lot of places. But everything on the sheet should mean something. And like I was saying, it's reverse Chekhov's gun because you have to make it matter as part of, or that's what the game is asking you to do.
Yeah. For Tales from the Loop, they have a thing like what's their favorite song, and when we ran it, I didn't let them choose. I had a playlist of 127 songs from the 80s, and they rolled a D127, and it's like, okay, this is your character's favorite song. They play this all the time, and that helped them sort of figure out like, okay, so what does that say about the person? Like, this is their go-to song. Why is Vacation by the Go-Go's so important to them?
It's all I ever wanted.
It's all they ever wanted. They had to get away.
I'm not gonna lie, I was big mad that we didn't get to pick our own song.
Yeah.
But that's the challenge. You still have to, you go with it. You just look at it and figure out exactly. I don't remember what mine was, but
I don't remember. Like,
Mine was Dance Hall
127
Days.
songs.
And I love making playlists for characters and getting into the headspace of somebody and having a wild song that just made its way onto the playlist by itself was pretty cool. I really listened to those lyrics and tried to make my character like he's internalized this song for some reasons. It ended up being like there's a repeated thing of you need her and she needs you. And I was playing a character with a sister that was also one of the PCs, and I was just like, okay, well, sister is very important to me, and that we get together, like we get through this life together. Like that's I'm gonna make sure she's safe. Do you all have any other things to add, or we can go to audience questions if
We have to do audience questions.
Yeah. You all,
Mike.
It was like,
Oh, yes. Oh, there's one of those. Awesome.
I was wondering with the randomness, is it more appropriate to delve into having more randomness in the character creation when you're doing like a one-off or a very short run versus we tend to play games that go a year long, right? And I don't know that I would want to put as much emphasis on randomness personally, if I'm gonna have to live with it for a long time, where it might be more fun to live with something totally crazy, but only for one night.
I think that's a great opportunity for building a character more like the traditional way, but then adding random elements in. And then those are things that you have to play with during the, year-long campaign or whatever. To me, I think again, I would just do it random.
yeah.
I would just go for it.
I mean,
But,
yeah,
if
We
you're
have-
worried about it.
we have long seasons. Like, we record one we did most recently was like
31 episodes.
31 episodes, which is 31 weeks, and you're with this character. And part of what the randomness does is, and what we saw here when we were making this character is, this isn't what I thought I wanted, but I'm very invested into this person. Why do they want to be a person? So there is a resistance because there is resistance. Like, I want to always be good at a thing because I'm playing a game and I want to be able to succeed. And that may not happen a lot in real life, so I kind of want it to happen a lot in my game time. But having built-in unexpected flaws actually helps make a richer experience in the long term. So even though it's great for a one shot because it's like it's a toss off and I don't really care about what happens necessarily, when you are stuck with a person that you didn't have complete control over for a year, you find a lot in that you like, oh, I actually really love that they want to be a doctor but they're not very bright.
I think there's
Or-
something about it. There's something about that work that your brain has to do to make all those things work out and connect that like builds an ingrained like love for that character.
I'll also say though that you can have depth within randomness without being over burdened by it, if that makes sense. Because I totally understand you're doing this thing for the long run and you want to make sure that you do have that investment in it. And the best way for you to do that is to kind of have control. Something I do in every campaign that I run now. And funnily enough, on my next panel, role playing icebreakers, we'll talk about it there as well. Something I do is once we have our characters, once the players are understanding what they want to do, I go, all right, it's time for everyone to have a suitcase. Great. Get your suitcase. It's open. Guess what? It's empty. Hey, other players, what's in that player's suitcase? You know, what now that you've seen this character, what do you think they have? It's random for the player because they didn't expect it to be there. But now it gives them something to start investing in. And then to make it even spicier, if it's like five people giving, something to that suitcase, one of those items suddenly becomes a magic item. And now you really are invested in it, right? So now you can then do some homework and go, what is this item for you? It doesn't have to be this major thing. It could be something you picked up, something you saw at a store. It can be something your mom gave you. It could be something that's an heirloom, whatever you want it to be. That there is a level of randomness to that, but not in a way that completely derails what you have intended for your game. So really, it's your mileage may vary. It's how much randomness you want for you. It doesn't have to be the full thing.
Yeah. Our
But-
show is wild.
Yeah,
But,
this is a very specific
but
show. Yeah.
also,
our
like-
show's, the funny thing is when we started, we were talking about what we want to do with the podcast. I'm like, I don't know that I want to do a ton of randomness. And they were like, what if everything was random? And I'm like, all right, fine. Let's just see what happens. And it surprises us every time we do it.
Like Greg mentioned the pig space rock hybrid weird thing. That's the wildest thing we've ever gotten, of course. Most of the time it just works. Like the game is set up to make the characters succeed. Like that's what games like. You
Yeah,
want
because you're often pulling from the game material. You don't have to go off script if you don't want to. So it's
I promise it's not as scary as all that. And I love Omega's suitcasing. That's cool.
Yeah, that is.
I want to say I'm pretty sure I got that. I think it's Brindlewood Bay. I need to go like. We were playing Old Grannies. Is what I remember specifically.
That's Brindlewood Bay.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
Brindlewood Bay.
Yeah. It was the coolest thing, and I was like, I'm stealing that forever.
Yeah. Like you should use your other players at the table to consolidate, like help consolidate what this randomness means for you, and that's a way to do that.
So I just wanted to say Rosie the Visitor.
Rosie
is-
the
is
Visitor.
our charismatic character.
Done.
But so as far as being a DM or GM, as far as random encounters and random enemies that you fight, do you because we kind of have like for D&D, we have pre-made, here's a cultist, here's a bandit. You kind of have your pre-made characters. Do you ever mess with making new NPCs slash monsters, or do you just kind of randomize and say it's 3 cultists, like that kind of thing? Do you ever make new monsters, or what? How do you randomize encounters?
I think there can be a number of different approaches to this. You can, like you say, you can just roll on a table, find your stat block in the monster manual, go play that creature. You can also still do that and make them unique. And one of my favorite things to do is to describe a monster or show an NPC's personality and not make it immediately clear what stat block that creature is using. So if you're presenting a random option that you've generated from a table, and it's an NPC, focusing on what that NPC does, what their background is, what their motivation is for approaching the party, those kinds of things. In a lot of cases, you'll find those stat blocks aren't even that relevant. So depending on the use that you need, focusing on that is good. It's always fun to make new monsters and creatures and stat blocks. It takes forever. So I would probably only do that if that is going to be a recurring character, or you can reuse it in other options. Like you can do a lot of things behind the screen of everything being this veneer that you've created, and it turns out a lot of stuff is just made up, which I encourage.
I also like to take existing monsters, existing creatures, and then put a little sprinkle on them, if you will. Like an example is yesterday I ran ADHD and D, and I really liked the idea of a false hydra. I thought that was a really cool monster, and I wanted to play around with it, but I also wanted it to sort of make sense in the game. And so I sort of like homebrewed together the idea of a false hydra that feeds on attention. And so, like, how does that work? And so, like, the heads were fighting each other as to, like, should we sing? Should we make them forget? But, like, no, I want more attention, because get it? Attention. And so, yeah. And so that wound up being, like, kind of how I tend to do it is I don't like building stat blocks. I'm not good at it. I'm not good at math rock, crunchy numbers, hard, bad. So that's what I usually do is, like, if I'll take something that exists and then I'll say, I'm going to change it just a little bit, make it suit this world or the story that I'm trying to tell, and go from there. And yeah, like, you don't know what happens behind the screen. You can do whatever you want. It's a whole void back there.
You can definitely reuse things. You can also, the same way you make this, you can make a stat plot and just be like, I'm gonna roll a bunch of things and I put them in places and find things online. There are a million. If you look, there's a million ways to randomize a million things. Like you can go to Wikipedia and be like, just show me a random article, and then I'm gonna build something based off of the thing that came up. Or I'm gonna go to one of the National Geographic generators. It's like, here's 10,000 animals in the desert. I'm gonna roll one, and then okay, so now I'm building a thing I didn't even know lived in the desert, and I'm gonna go with that. One of the things about the GM and randomness is you still have to try to make it balanced. So there are some games where that's less important because the combat isn't as crunchy. And there are other games that the combat is really crunchy. So you need to be really careful that you're not giving level 1 players, this creature has 4,000 hit points and 25 strength. Good luck.
Cough, draw, steal, cough.
Yeah. So when you're doing a GM, you kind of have to understand what the game is, and then if it makes sense to create something from whole cloth because it won't fundamentally make it unfun to play against, or am I just going to randomize the veneer ahead of it? But I sort of know I know roughly what I want it to be able to do underneath. Okay, I'll take this stat block underneath, but randomly I have this veneer, and then that thing is going to tell me instead of a sword, it has an ice pick. Instead of fire breath, it breathes love. I don't know. Like maybe it's a Cupid strike.
The color blue.
Yeah,
Use the color blue.
color blue. You sort of have to like understand as the GM, as always, just as a general GM, you sort of have to understand your game and what you want your game to do, and then you can let randomness help get you out of your preconceived notions about that. So, for GMs, one of the things is the GMs for every season on Earth does have to randomize everything. Like we randomize the plot line. So in my next season, I'm going to roll up soon. What is the plot line that I'm going to take them through? I don't get to choose what I think the story is. We just let randomness decide that as well. And then it's up to me at that point to figure out, okay, this is a love story. How do I make that work in this world? And helps me as a GM feed off of that. So there's control there.
But also,
Yeah.
you're picking the randomizer you're using to create that, and you are the one interpreting what it means. So,
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
but also the season that we just recorded for mine, I kind of already had like an idea of what I wanted the story to be. So I did roll for like parts of the plot, but not the whole plot because I already kind of knew like it was based on an existing property. So I needed it to sort of follow that, but then do its own thing at some point. So even when you're randomizing your plot, you're still in control.
And to speak directly to like, I don't think it's ever, or it's very rarely interesting to just go, there are X, Y's, but you don't. The randomization that we do at least is very upfront, right? Like we make all these roles of what these characters are, what the world they occupy is, and then it's an interpretation. Like you can plan after that, like human brains are very good at making stories happen. Yeah. And if you have a couple of little groundwork things, they go.
I think also what's important, especially, and this is definitely GM coded. I think what's important is that while it's random for you as a GM, it's not random for the players. They don't know that it's random. So you can take that randomly. Like something I think about a lot, and it's so simple is how many times have you GM'd for a group and one person wasn't there, or an extra person was now at the table, and now you're like, oh, there's suddenly four cultists
Yeah.
instead of three.
Yeah.
And somehow that fourth cultist has become the BBEG, right? Those things, don't be afraid to like look at that and go, oh, I can actually play with this now. Because again, ultimately, the players also won't know. They're going to be invested regardless. So the things that are random to us ultimately aren't to them. So you have as much control over that randomness, or you have more control of the randomness than you might think. Don't be too afraid of the what ifs of it all, because again, as you said, it's random, but it's not. Yeah, okay, I got a cultist. Great, this cultist is Steve, and he's Tiamat's right hand. Oh, now this is an entire plot line, right? And the players are like, "Oh my god, I can't believe you had that worked up,"
Steve is
and
the
I'm like,
worst.
"I totally
Totally had it worked out.
did."
Knew it from
Classic
day
Steve.
one.
Absolutely, rate me 5 stars. Right? No, so like, but so like, I think that's the cool thing of it. We get too scared about the word random, as if random means we don't have control, and truthfully, we do because we have control within that randomness.
That's a really good point. A randomness, if you look at it in a different way rather than this intimidating list of things I have to come up with, think of it as taking work off of your plate.
Yep.
Think of it as just guiding you to something that will be the easiest thing for you to do rather than putting all of this pressure on yourself to try to stick to exactly what you roll. Say you roll a 6 and the result is Steve the cultist, but you don't care about Steve the cultist. You don't have an idea for what Steve the cultist is. But a 5 is the dragonborn priestess of Tiamat. Oh, okay, then that gives you an idea because you know that it'd be super cool if this priestess of Tiamat had multicolored scales and a breath weapon that was different types of things, and thought that she was the second coming of Tiamat, and now you're coming up with it.
Also, Steve's ex.
Yeah.
Also, Steve's ex.
Wait, is
Yeah.
Tiamat Steve's ex?
Tiamat is a lot of people's ex.
Yeah, Tiamat is a lot of
That's
people's ex,
canon.
for sure.
Were there any other audience questions?
Don't be shy.
Yeah, so you kind of alluded to this earlier with talking about making sure that there are still choices for players to make and some things don't randomize. So I'm curious, do you think there's such a thing as too much randomization?
Yes, and again, in the case of very random encounters where the entire concept is randomness, there's no thing is too much. But I do agree that in some cases, it's like, all right, I do need to have some type of skeleton.
Yeah.
I need to know what it is I'm intending to do, and then I let the randomness kind of mess with the fodder in between. It's really going to depend on how comfortable your characters are or your players are with things being random, how comfortable you are as a GM with things being random. Some people cannot handle that. Do not stress yourself out. If you can't do it, guess what? You can't, and that's okay. Again, you can make the small things be your random moments, not the entire plot of it all. It's really going to depend on how do you think it's going to affect the story as a whole, and can you as a GM facilitate that? Or can you as a player handle that randomness for you? If not, guess what? It's not for you. And yeah, I don't want to be like, no, but that is that it could be a boundary. Like, hey, I need to have a little bit more reins on this.
There's also, I think, different categories of randomness. There are choices that inform your character or the game or the experience that your players are going to have. Secondary follow-up category, lol, 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 Penguin of Doom. And the Penguin of Doom randomness, I think, is the type that you want to avoid, because that's the type of randomness where you're just adding in random stuff for the sake of being random. And so I think it maybe sounds counterintuitive, but intentionality in randomness. Like, are you just randomly saying, and now there's penguins? Why, dog? Like, what are we doing here, man? Like, I like potatoes. Okay, great. So great for you. I love that. And I think we've all played with that player before, right? We've all played with that person who's just trying to bring the chaos as much as possible. And there's a time, there's a place, there is, which is not at my table, for those players, But yeah, so I think like intentionality. Why are you using randomness? Where is it showing up in the game, and how are you using it to facilitate us? Like Omega said, the skeleton of that story.
And you have control over where you're looking. So you can make a random table that is 100% in your theme. Like I'm making 10 monsters that are possible here. So I know that they exist here. So I'm not randomizing out of theme. I'm just randomizing in the theme that I chose. So there are various levels. Um, One of the things my home game players we always say is, the dice want to tell a story. Let the dice tell the story, and that applies in a lot of ways. You just sort of have to decide, like, am I fine with the player that's like, and now suddenly there's devil penguins, or am I putting up the guardrails and I'm making them narrow or wide? Where is the limits? Because we all, even the random person says like, I like potatoes. They have an outer limit as well that they think is too far. Like there are ideas that they think this is wildly out of scope, and I would never say that. So helping people also define where the rails are. Like we're going to play in here, and you can, as a GM, shrink that or expand it as much as you are comfortable.
You also got to remember that, like, and I love that you said that dice tell a story because that is something I've lived by in TTRPG. Just something, honestly, I don't get random tattoos. Random. I don't get random tattoos, but it is something I do want to get because I have lived by that phrase. I think it's so important because we're playing a game with dice. We're playing a game with dice, so in some way, shape, or form, randomness is at our table because that's what it is. If you get that in that one, then guess what? The story is about the shift to honor that nat one or within that 20 or whatever the dice system you're using, right? So like there's already at that level of it. Now it's just how much do you really lean into it. We make jokes, especially with D20 fantasies. We make jokes with, hey, you got a nat one, you stubbed your foot. One that's already a level of random, but now how is that going to affect? Did that character just break his foot? Now he can't walk. Is his walking speed have now halved or whatever the case may be, right? Like those things you can really think about and play with. It doesn't have to be this random encounter table. It can just literally be where did they roll in that dice pool and how can I now look at that to shape the story? That is randomness at its core. So it's not something to necessarily be afraid of because you do it every day. Now you get to decide how much you add to it.
Yeah, you already love randomness. I promise.
If you
That's
did,
why
you
you're
would not be
here.
playing TTRPGs.
Were there any more questions? Or
Any other questions? Don't be shy. Yeah. We got 8 minutes.
You had talked about kind of sort of putting up the guardrails for limiting the randomness. So I have a player at my table who is the peak chaos, and sometimes it's like, all right, it's not the time for this kind of thing. I will absolutely want to have agency. I want my players to have agency. Want my players to be able to choose whatever they want. But sometimes you're like, okay, you're throwing off the game a little bit here. Let's get back on track. How would you recommend doing that while still allowing them to have that agency? Like we want randomness, but to a point.
It's communication.
Yeah.
And I know that's like the easy answer for it, but like it's communication. So fun fact, I actually hate wild magic sorcerers.
Really?
Hate wild magic sorcerers. And yet I've only played two at this point. Of the yeah, but that was years ago. Okay, but those required intense conversations with my GM saying, hey, this is why I think there's this wild element is there. And I understand that you as the GM get to facilitate how wild things go. I will never prompt that. And a lot of players actually don't ever read the clear text of
Yeah.
wild magic sorcerers that say the GM decides if you roll. Yeah, they're like, look at me, I guess gonna pot a plant. No, no, no.
Dice down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's like at the end of the day, communication is important because if they think they can just run up there with that randomness, guess what they're going to do? If they with that chaos, guess what they're going to do? And it is our job to like facilitate what that is and what the expectations of this table is.
It's also pacing as well. It's also when that player has derailed the conversation and there's a whole side conversation going on, or they're doing something that is random for the sake of being random. They're searching for a thing, or they're trying to talk to an NPC. and you've got your story you've got to get through. You've got your session time that's limited. Just as the DM, kind of like making it known that there's a thing that happens. Like I'm a big fan of making physical noises at the table, like pounding on the door. You hear the door slam open, and in walks in your next plot point. But just kind of like not being afraid to interrupt when they do that, and just go, okay, now here's what we're doing. That usually draws their attention away from whatever they were doing. That in a lot of cases they didn't really care about that much. They were just trying to be random.
Candela Obscura, which is I did a little rating for that game. They have a really good way of sort of setting up the encounter, which is location, 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 person, 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 MacGuffin, MacGuffin, MacGuffin. And so as a DM, I've sort of taken that and used that in all of the games, right? So if you have a player who's like, I want to go to the ice cream shop, great. The MacGuffin is now in the ice cream shop, right? Or like, I want to go talk to the I don't know, cabbage seller. The great, guess what? The cabbage seller has that information that you need. Sometimes just sort of taking, like, if they're really, really adamant about doing that really, really chaotic thing, sometimes rewarding the chaos will allow you to keep the game going. But also sometimes you can punish the chaos. Sometimes if they get too far off track, maybe the cabbage seller is deeply offended to be spoken to, and now there's like a little bit of like, I don't want to say like a punishment, but like perhaps a learning opportunity, right? Something like that. But yeah, that can work. It's just sort of like moving those pieces around.
I mean, sometimes they need consequences for their choices, and if they're like, "I made a funny choice," okay, there's still a consequence because you made that happen.
I fart on him. Like, great. Well,
Right.
that guy's gonna be mad about
Very
that.
mad.
Like,
Nobody wants to get farted on. Except for
Yeah,
you,
we only have 5 minutes left. So.
Yeah. Let's go starting with Greg and back around.
Okay, before we go into our thing, I wanted to say that there is a charity that the digital media track is going through. So DragonCon is committed to helping the community through raising funds and providing dollar for dollar match of $125,000 to this year's charity, which is NAMI of Georgia, the National Alliance on Mental Illness. There are QR codes here, so if you want to make a donation, they're matching. We always want to give back to the community, help people in our community as much as possible, and so DragonCon makes that very easy. So if you're interested, it's up here. Just take a QR code. Then I'll do my intros. I'm Greg Leatherman. You can find my games. This will be out eventually, but everything is on my website, leatherman.games. You can listen to our show called Very Random Encounters to get a feel of what it's like to throw caution into the wind and randomize everything and see how it plays out. We've been doing it for 8 years. We decided early on that we were going to play a different game every season. So if there's a genre that you like, if you're like, where should we start? Like, if you like sci-fi, pick a sci-fi season. They're all self-contained. So pick one, take a listen, see what we do, and enjoy it.
hi, everybody. My name is Kate Osborne. You can find me everywhere there is a Katiosaurus to be had. You can also go to katiosaurus.com to see what I'm doing, where I'm going to be next. I've got a lot of stuff coming up, so you can also join my newsletter if you like. Shameless moment of self-promotion. I'm also going to be DMing for D3 at Sea's new vampire cruise. We're taking a riverboat cruise down the Danube to Bram Castle, where we're going to be playing vampire games at Dracula's castle and then doing a masquerade ball. I know. So there's more information about that on my website as well. I also have a book coming out. It's called The ADHD Field Guide for Adults, available for pre-order now. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I am Amanda Hammond. I am the senior designer on 5th edition D&D at Wizards of the Coast, and you can find me occasionally on social media on X. I don't love that place anymore, but it is what it is. We have, of course, a bunch of stuff that has come out. My most recent book that I was lead on was Dragon Delves, which anthology of Dragons in Dungeons adventures. Just came out in July, and I've got some other stuff coming down the line. But we have a number of digital offerings tied to the Forgotten Realms hardcover books that are coming out later this year. I was the lead on those digital products. We have gotten Astarian digital project that is all about our favorite vampire elf, the vampire fawn from Baldur's Gate 3. A whole bunch of rules tied to him. We've got a Lorwyn Shadowmoor in D&D crossover coming out as part of that as well. And another one that I don't know if it's been announced yet, but it will be really cool and involves time travel. I'm done. Bye.
Ooh. Hi again. My name is Omega Jones, also known as Crit Bar across all social media channels. I truly do way too much. So if you're looking for anything I'm doing, just look at my socials, especially Instagram, Threads, or Blue Sky, is where I post most things. I'm on a crap ton of actual plays that I believe in, and streaming. Yeah, I'm just tired. So yeah, check out the things I'm doing. I can't wait.
I'm Lee Terrell. I'm on Very Random Encounters. If you'd like a reference book of random locations, encounters, NPCs, other things, we wrote a book. You can find it at bit.ly/random book with the RMB capitalized.
The Ultimate Random Encounters book is what that book is. I'm Logan Jenkins. I'm also on Very Random Encounters. I'm also on Game Mechanics with Greg. If you want to listen to that. And you can find all my stuff at loganjenkins.com. Thank you all very much for coming to this panel. Rate us 5 stars in the app.